Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited, as always, to be able to be reaching so many of you today. And of course, having an amazing guest, and I'll introduce her in a second. But I just wanted to remind everybody that I'm offering something new, and it's not on my little commercial, so I want to make sure that you know about it. I'm calling it Elevated Intensives, because I've noticed, I don't know if my guest has noticed this as well, but it's kind of hard to get people to do like an extended seminar series. And I've been doing it for so many decades. So I've decided to kind of change up and offer what I do in kind of a one-on-one intensive way, and which includes the Perfect Life Awakening information as well as inner work individually. And it's based on your schedule. So reach out and let me know you're interested and we'll sign you up. And also remind everybody that I do a Substack and it's called Royce's Ramblings. Excuse me. And you can follow me on there as well. So that's enough about me. So today I have the honor of talking with Amy Pons, and she's the founder of Unlock the Magic. Excuse me, clear my throat here. It's a business and movement geared toward amplifying the unique brilliance. I love that within each individual soul on this plane. And she's a certified life coach and energy healer. She has gifts of clairsentience, I can't say that, clairsentience and claircognizance, which, by the way, every time I type that up, it tells me it's misspelled. It drives me nuts. She already understands and knows where your body is trying to get to, while your brain is saying, don't you dare. Amy shows you how to understand your own energy and work with each version of yourself to greet the infinite possibilities of a great life. Sounds wonderful. And it's all about turning inward, as I'm sure you realize from listening to me for a while. And she helps you shift from I couldn't possibly to I can and I will. And I think what's wonderful about your work, Amy, which is my intention as well, is that it's about raising the vibration of all humanity, connecting to the sacred feminine, which we're going to talk about today, healing yourself, as well as all that stuff you brought with you from your ancestors and past lives and all that. So today, we are going to talk about feminine, the sacred feminine rage. And Amy's going to explain what all of that is. I can't wait to hear more. And before we even get into that, welcome, Amy. I'm so glad you're here with me.
Thanks so much. As you read the bio, it's like I used to be the person in my copy paste autopilot days that I would have heard that and been like, what are you actually talking about? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I find this interesting at any given moment of how to not try to mainstream the language I use, but at the same time, I want to be able to have everyone have a baseline understanding of energy work and just how to naturally listen to their body. That's really all it is. And if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for that. I mean, it's just
Right.
not, and it may not be that this lifetime, but it just makes me kind of chuckle. Like back in my corporate days, I would have been like, what? Like, get out of here. Tell me, like, I would have been like, I don't know, you're speaking another language. So.
Oh, I know. I totally get it. Yeah. But I think people are starting to speak that language. They're starting to understand it and maybe even connect with it, you know?
Yeah.
As,
It's almost like the beginning of 25, I was starting to really do some deep research into the year ahead, and I'm sure all of us did in some ways. But there was this like message I kept getting, which was there's going to be this moment where suddenly in your daily conversations you'll be talking about quantum, like the quantum field. I'm like, whoa. And that actually happens. I will bring up the quantum and talk about it, and someone's like, oh yeah, cool. I'm like, we're here. Okay, cool, good.
I remember when I first started teaching and I would say things like, oh, reincarnation, blah, blah, blah. And people would go, what? And now they're like, oh, yeah, tell me more. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Well,
Yeah.
that used to, and it's funny you mentioned that specifically. So the whole thing we're talking about, everything that we're going to talk about or we've been talking about is, of course, like my shirt says today, I'm not for everyone. That's awesome. Like we're not meant to be. Like the whole notion that I'll speak for myself, the way that I was brought up, that there's one right way, that there's one true truth, that there's one leader, there's one following, there's it, that's it. That's the whole thing we're like busting out of. So beautifully, as always, and I'm sure you have something similar, I'll be like, take what lands and leave the rest. Like, don't just subscribe unabashedly if it's not something that is like from your truth center, like a full-bodied yes. Like I sometimes people new to my orbit, I'm like, if it's not a full-bodied yes, then it's a no. And they're like, that panics them because they're like, what about the shades of gray in life? Yeah, the shades of gray are amazing places to start looking into why it's a no, if you really wanted to figure it out, but it's a no, regardless.
Yeah. I find also one of the things I tell my students all the time is if there's a part of you that's screaming, no, and questioning and being skeptical, the quote, thou protesteth too loudly might be something to look at because, I've had people that were the biggest protesters of everything I'm saying. And eventually when they got it, they're like, oh, I get it now. And they become the biggest advocates and the biggest awakened people. So, there's that aspect to it as well. So,
I that's absolutely right. And there was something like beautifully about that is that their body already said yes, which is why they took your course. Like they're in your class, so they can absolutely like fight it, but like there was something still that got them in there. So what I'm typically referring to are like the things, like the people, places, and things around you that take you out of your like favorite self. That's more of like, if that's not a full-bodied yes, then it's a no.
Yeah. Well, sounds like we've jumped right in, but I'd love for you, I would love for you to tell our listeners and viewers, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into all of this? What got you started? Tell us your story.
So amazingly, for those of you and you're listening to Royce's show, you may vibe with this or not vibe with this, but something that I now realize is that children and animals, nature are closest to the veil being which, like, coming from the soul plane to this plane, that's separating the veil. The children are closest to that. So amazingly, what I find is that a lot of times the conditioning of children happens pretty early on because they're not kind of acting like the other kids, or like, you know, an in tune child, which I think they all are. We all are, first of all. That's why I'm like, I know we talk about awakening versus remembering, and it's whatever, again, whatever lands with you. But I like to say that I remembered, because from the earliest ages, I want to say like, I don't know, 4 or 5, I would stroll up to adults and be like, "Hey, why does your stomach hurt?"
Wow.
Or I'd be like, "You're not happy."
What
Well,
would your reaction be? What would
oh,
you
oh
say?
my God. Anywhere from like, well, you know, because I was I was telling the truth. But like anywhere from sheer annoyance to like outrage to be like, "Where's your mom?" um, to like, you know, there was, I don't think, I mean, and this is something that maybe I'll sit with at some point. I don't remember one adult leading in and being like, "Ooh, what, tell me more about that. How did you know?" Mostly it was like, "That's creepy, stop it." And so, and then like paired with growing up in a domestic violence home, there was this constant hypervigilance, of like searching for the next safe moment, because I didn't know when that was going to be, and also being told, "Don't do that." Like, essentially stop reading people. And again, beautifully as a child, I didn't know I was reading someone. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I feel something. That's my clairsentience. Like when I can feel your energetic field, or I can feel something, like, and it varies. I can't really explain why it's works some ways with some people and some ways with not. But like, for instance, a client told me they were stung by a bee, and I was like, "Was it in the middle of your back?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "I felt it." Um, and then other times it's like more vague. It's like I can feel aura, more like an overall vibe. So it just depends on where I'm at in that moment with someone. But and then the claircognizance is, I already know, I can feel what you're feeling, and then I already know where your body wants to go. And again, like you read, your mind or your conditioning or whatever it is I couldn't possibly, I couldn't possibly go after that. And I think that's the great kind of beautiful dichotomy of being a soul spirit, having a human experience. We kind of forgot why we came here to experience the hard
Yeah.
thing, but also get back to our soul like blueprint. Anyway, so
Yeah.
after 4 or 5, like, especially, it's like I was, for a long time, I was kind of, my gifts were kind of tamed out of me, or disciplined out of me. And but they were always there, of course. So throughout, I mean, from that point, it was like I went super mainstream and was like, only do things that can help you fit in to the cool crowd or the mainstream. So I continued suppressing for a long time. And even though I was always the person that always knew like what was going on, the vibe or an energy of a group of people before, or that no one else picked up on. And I thought it was weird. I'm like, does this mean I'm wrong? Like, I didn't, so it wasn't, no, I had a gift. So I was told, you're going to go to college, get a job. So I went to college and I got a job and jumped right into corporate America. And in that world, because of my upbringing in domestic violence home, my comfort zone, my safe place was feeling inferior or being told to be less or having someone else be in charge. That was my comfort. So that was normal for me. That was familiar. And again, my brain was excited and happy because we're safe. Okay. And for the next, probably the first 10 years of my career, my corporate career, and I became a badass marketer. I'm an Aries, so I'm always going to crush it, always. And so, but then also, what's interesting, I've learned more about this in my latter journey, is that I'm a rising Libra, and I want justice. I want fairness. I want equity. I want, I want everything to just be fair for everyone. I want every human to be able to live to their fullest expression. So that was a beautiful pairing when I started to remember that I have gifts. I was like, oh, right, I have these cool gifts. So around 15 years into my corporate career, I started to remember. And I was like, I want to do more than like the thing every day. I was Amy Pons title, big company, like, for that amount of time. And I was highly regarded, acclaimed in the workplace. And it just started to feel really bad. It didn't feel like there was, there was obviously toxicity. There was a lot of power over each other. I didn't vibe with that. And I was the safe space for my team. And I became the leader of the women's employee resource group. And I started coaching. And I was like, oh, but I was not willing to say I'm a coach. Like, I was like, oh, of course, I'm a leader, so I can coach. That's fine. Yeah, of course. But it felt good. It lit me up. And I was like, because I would extract what was already in them. Like as a coach, even as a teacher, I'm a teacher and a healer, but it's still working with your energy to extract what's already in you. So it's helping you extract that, showing it to you, and leading you or guiding you how to trust that so that you can validate for yourself and you don't need that external piece. So a few years later, after my initial kind of remembering and like things started getting really pinchy for me because I was coming back to myself, my spirit team, I swear they got in a huddle and they're like, okay, this is going to have to be something really intense to get her, like to scoot her boot. And so they handed me like one of the more psychologically abusive workplace relationships. And that is what led me to say, today's my last day. And that sent shockwaves through the organization and through the community. And because I was the light in corporate. I was the one that was always bringing people up, that was always leading morale, that was always the cheerleader, that was always going to have your back. And the light went out, before I left, because we all were feeling the pinch, but even more so as I left. I wouldn't have told you when I left corporate that I was going to be doing all these things. And the most important part is I didn't know how I wanted to feel, which is something that I work with a lot with people that I serve. Is it's not just about what thing do you want to do? How do you want to feel when you do the thing? And it's more about like one of the most underestimated goals or achievements is to feel peace in this space and time. Like true peace. You can sit still and your heart, your nervous system are calm and relaxed. Yeah. I think that is a rarity. And that's a gem. That's a true gem. So my, like today, before I even opened my eyes, I set the intention to feel calm today because I didn't sleep well. And so, I was like, well, I could feel not calm today. So let me set the intention to feel calm. And that's what I shall do today. So anyway, my story is that I was a lifelong mainstreamer that was meant always to be on the front lines to usher people through their own experience of returning to self, again, on their timeline, not on my agenda, but like when you can hear me, let's go.
Wow. As I'm listening, I'm thinking your story is very similar to mine, just forgetting who I was and then having the universe force it in my lap, literally. And, it took a while for me to accept it, but I couldn't deny when people were arriving all the time in my classes, that kind of thing. So I think that's pretty common, that the universe just does whatever it takes. It's like, oh, this girl isn't listening. Let's just shove her in
Well,
another direction,
yes, and because of free will, you can. Like, so it's interesting. Like, I had this nugget when you first started talking, when you kicked us off. Everyone's like, why must I heal? Why must I wake up? Why must I remember? Oh, you don't have to do anything. You have free will on this plane. That's what's beautiful as a human. And it's likely that if from your soul blueprint you were meant to remember your soul spirit, your soul blueprint here, and you're not getting it, 3D life is going to get pretty uncomfortable. And that's the hard part, because that's what leads into, and I'd love your thoughts on this, like a lot of, genuinely, we create everything around us. Everything around us is a reflection of what's inside. And so when someone says, well, Amy, that's hard, because why would I possibly create misery for myself and suffering? Fair point. And I'm not suggesting, this is where it gets difficult, because as humans, we don't understand that notion. We get it on a soul level, but like, it's not that you're intentionally, perhaps, maybe you're intentionally not creating misery and suffering in your life. And there's something in you that doesn't feel that you're either deserving of, or that you have capacity for, or that you have a limitation around, that would not be able to hold a higher vibration, or like that thing that you want. So that's the limitation, and that's the work, which some people are like, that's what it's like, kind of invisible, would you say, to someone who's not? It's invisible to me sometimes, and I'm I'm a light worker. I can't find it sometimes in my immediate energy field. That's why I have support. I have a shaman,
Yeah. Well, I think, excuse me, the word you said, deserving. I mean, that's the core. That's what I spend, 90% of my teaching is all about having people awaken to the fact that there's a deep part of them that does not feel deserving. And how do we clean that up? How do we get past that? So that's what I do in my courses. So I'm assuming you help people with that.
Yeah, it's like, and there's this interesting, again, we're in such an interesting time and place, because there is massive systemic change going on. And there's this, like, I'm sure you've heard it. There's a lot of thought that people are turning so inward that they're becoming selfish or like too individualistic. And I'm like, okay, hang on. Okay, like everything in life, it's a balance. So we're not suggesting, when I say turn inward, I'm not suggesting you only think about yourself. So to answer your question, what I teach, or what I help guide, is by turning inward, by choosing you actually choose not only what you're bringing in, but like also what you care about. You choose your loved ones, you choose thy neighbor, you choose the land. By choosing you get to navigate a place where you get to be a beautiful steward towards self, toward thy neighbor, and toward thy land. And that to me is like being a human. That's like what we came here to do. And if you're not choosing yourself and you're giving up everything for everybody else, that's also a problem. So it's like, it's the balance. So to your point, yes, like the first thing I will say is like, how's your heart? And it's like, it's so much of getting out of head, and head can become a part of the head needs to come with. We don't ignore or suppress any part of the energy field, and I find that so many of us were only taught to lead with our heads. So it's getting back into your body. So I teach that first. It's like getting back into your body. I feel exuberant. Cool. Where do you feel that? I feel it like down in my belly. Awesome. And we start talking about chakras. But to your point, we get into the space where it's like, I feel blocked, I feel stuck, I feel like I can't get over the hump in whatever that is in my life. Okay. Where do you feel that? Is there a time in your life that really resonates? And then we go there, and what about that version of you feels like you didn't deserve this? Like, what are they feeling right now? Because they're the ones coming up into your system fighting. Why? And it's a really, really awesome experience when we can become the parent, the teacher, the friend that version of us needed back then in current day. So every time that you do that, you bring that version up alongside you, and you both get to be part of the process until you have like all versions of you all marching together at the same time. But that's the lifelong work.
Wow. So
Just a little bit. So
yeah, that's wonderful. It looks like we're just about midway here, and I'd love to start talking about the title of the show, which is Connecting Your Sacred Feminine Rage with the Healing Part of You, or Healing Others. But I want to wait until after our little break, and we'll just dive right into that. So if you're just tuning in for some reason, I'm talking with Amy Pons, and we're talking about sacred feminine rage. Stay tuned.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. Talking with Amy Pons and just talking about all kinds of amazing things, of course, because you are amazing. And the title of the show is Connecting Your Sacred Feminine Rage. Well, first of all, what do you mean by sacred feminine? Let's get that kind of defined.
Sacred feminine, and you've heard probably divine feminine, and there's a new feminine being birthed, but the sacred feminine, and this has nothing to do with gender, it's an internal energy, the sacred feminine of flow, creation, trust, that has really been exiled for thousands of years. And we've only been in the masculine energy, which in divine action, structure, has, when paired together, you can almost imagine as the divine feminine creates, the divine masculine holds the structure to be able to release it to the world. When out of balance, like we've been, only in the masculine, it becomes action, structure, and it's actually become power, hierarchy, order. Ooh, I make a face because it's like, ooh, because like everything with balance. And so beautifully, I mean, as the divine feminine or that energy of flow, creation, and trust has been exiled for thousands of years, it's now re-entering. And it started really catapulting all of humanity with when Neptune entered Aries in March. But it's been happening for a while, for quite a while, as the divine feminine is coming back in to create the balance we've never seen in this lifetime. So, as you can imagine, anyone that's been exiled, or any energy that's been exiled for thousands of years, there may be some pent up energy.
A little explosion
Yeah,
here and
like
there. Yeah.
we're all a bunch of little volcanoes. And by the way, every human, first of all, y'all know this. Everything is energy. Energy is everything. Every human has both energies, divine, or both energies, feminine, masculine, inside them. And it's likely, and I'll speak for myself, for 40 years of my life, I was only allowed space to show up in my masculine energy. So even me, I participated in the skewed masculine, for the imbalance, let's say the imbalanced masculine, for 40 years. Bringing the divine feminine back in, feeling not only what it's felt like on this plane as a human to not feel equal. And again, this transcends gender, but also, for those of you who know chakras, in our sacral chakra, that's where especially we have held the energy. Like for me, I have the energy of thousands of women from my lineage around me at any given time. Sometimes I need to ask them to step back. But all of that energy is within me as well. So that sacred rage bubbles up from my lineage, from my lived experience. And it's not about the sacred rage for me. And I love your thoughts. The sacred feminine rage is not about creating a villain. And it's actually not about fight, not about war. That sacred rage actually comes up so strongly, erupts like a volcano, and then transmutes into this beautiful love outward to transmute even the toughest imbalanced of powers. For me, that's what it is.
So, how would that look in the real world? Like, let's say, for example, a certain politician who emanates all masculine, toxic masculinity, shall we say? Let's say an incredibly sacred female, feminine, raging person is sitting in the room with this person. What would that look like?
Yeah.
Imagine, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. So what's beautiful about this, and I'll talk about when we feel into the full feminine goddess. The full feminine goddess in her power holds space for the most egregious, or holds space for the most imbalanced. So I actually enjoy getting into those rooms with those imbalanced or wounded masculine. I really enjoy it because it's actually my sacred feminine rage that holds the space. If I entered that room as a wounded feminine, or like feeling into my lived experience of the wounded feminine, we would both leave that. That would play out poorly for me. I would feel even worse, but also they would dig deeper into the imbalanced. So interestingly, it's not about, so in your example, I would walk in the room with that wounded, imbalanced masculine energy. And as that got louder, I would get more firm and solid and grounded in my sacred feminine rage. And I would hold so firm that by my sheer presence, my sheer existence, that imbalanced, wounded masculine would begin to feel safe in their authentic expression. And before you know it, we would come to an understanding. And I've had this play out in real life. So
Wow.
It's about holding that energy so strongly that you are not there to create a villain in that imbalanced masculine, that you're there actually to hold them. And believe it or not, that's the rage. The rage can hold that thousands of years of imbalance, of that unfairness, of that unequal, of all of it. The sacred rage can hold it to the point where there's a breaking point toward the love and the humanity. So I'll give you a personal example. I've been in those rooms and I've held my line. I've held my magic. I've held my power. And this imbalanced, wounded masculine has broken down in tears in front of me. Now, that won't always happen that way. Sometimes they will roar and roar and roar. And the firmer I get, the more annoyed they get. But then guess what? We part ways. And then who comes round again? Why didn't you fight back? Well, I don't need to. They don't understand that. So the sacred feminine rage is actually what neutralizes and balances, in my experience, the imbalanced masculine energy that we've been seeing thus far.
So I guess maybe rage, and I know what you're saying, that maybe rage kind of leads people to think that you're angry and you're fighting back. It's not really, it's just a state of empowerment.
Yeah. I mean, but the rage actually, yeah. So as a human, of course, we think of rage as like mad. Yeah, we're actually really angry. You want to see me turn up? I'll turn up. And what's happening inside me is that I know and I trust that my innate power through my rage is actually how I'm going to transmute into the neutralization and the love. So it's not rage it's not like rage as it relates to drawing your sword. That we're heading into days where like war won't even be a thing. You know? So it's almost like we channel the rage. And it's not about suppressing. It's not about hiding it. It's using that ironclad fortress of rage to hold the line. Because I tell you what, the imbalance expects you to draw your sword. That's what they thrive upon. That's what they need. That's what feeds it. So when you're able to hold that rage into a place where it's almost like, I envision it. It's like a lava coming up, and then it erupts and it literally like rains down an energetic field around you of golden warmth. That's what helps people start to feel or be drawn into you like a magnet and start to feel that safety that they can let down their only one way that they've been taught. That's not giving them a justification or a pass for how they act. And that's how. And I have to tell you, like, as humans, like a lot of us, we're like, no, I want to get mad and I want to draw my sword. Great. It takes all of us right now. It's not a bad thing. If you feel like, this is where you go inward again. Go inward, see what you have capacity for. But I actually with all of my clients right now, I always say, turn the volume up on that madness, that anger, that rage, turn it all the way up to its fullest volume. What beautifully happens is a transmutation for self when you do that. And once you do that for yourself, you learn that you can do that for others. And it's pretty amazing. So it's like leaning into your rage.
So I always talk about mirroring. I was on your show and I was talking about mirroring. As you're talking, I'm thinking one of the things that I do when I'm in a situation like that is I immediately turn inward, even when that person is sitting there with their sword out. I turn inward and see what they're mirroring and recognize it and acknowledge it to myself. And the energy shifts even by doing that. So it's not so much rage at them or at being suppressed for 1,000 years. It's rage at myself for allowing my power to be suppressed for that long. And why did I not deserve my power? And I do that whole little gyration in my head and things shift. So I can see both of those techniques really working.
And in the spirit of mirroring, imagine when you have allowed the sacred rage to bubble all the way up and out into this beautiful blanket of warmth. Well, in mirroring, they're going to mirror that. They're going to be like, oh.
Yeah.
And believe me, it takes so much work and practice, and not everyone's willing or wanting to lay down their sword. That's not your pet. That's great. Like, but it's for those who are like, I know I'm a pioneer in this world. I know that I'm meant to raise the vibration of humanity. This is how you start to use the rage that's within you, that's from your lived experience, that's from your lineage, to actually neutralize not just the energy of like people right in front of you, but the entire world, the entire collective. The whole ask right now is on an energetic perspective. It's more energy than anything that we can, it's more than anything that we can do like in physical person.
Yes. And I think people are getting to the point where this is just not acceptable anymore. You know, when you said war is going to be over, I mean, every time I read about somebody bombing somebody or somebody going to bomb somebody or creating some nuclear something, I just go, what? Has it ever worked? Have they not figured out after thousands of years that it doesn't work?
And
you know?
the more we tell them it doesn't work, the more they're going to be like, I'm going to do more of it. So that's, I'm going to show you. And so that's where it comes in too, where I'm going to keep saying this. It's not easy, you know, to be so triggered sitting in front of someone that is causing harm to you or your loved ones. Absolutely. And so that's where it's just, it takes a lot of like, what are you meant to do? What is your soul blueprint? What are you here to do? And how do you want to transmute what you're feeling inside for the betterment of humanity? Because I used to be that, by the way, meaning when I first left corporate, I was so mad. I drew my sword at everyone and everything. And everything was unfair. Everything was happening to me. That hurt. That hurt a lot. Like I was just suffering every day. And that was kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Because I was reacting to everything. You can do that. Again, free will. Do whatever you're going to do. And when you are navigating through and responding and giving it a minute to say like, how do I want to show up as my favorite self? Does this serve my favorite self? It was hurting me more to draw my sword every time. First, it took a lot of energy. Second, I would typically do or say something that I would later regret. It would sit in my soul. It was sticky. So that's the ask. When you draw your sword and it becomes sticky afterward, then it's yours. It's your work. And you're meant to do something bigger with that rage or do something more on the collective with that, with your sword, rather than just laying waste, which we all can do. That's what we've all learned.
Yeah. So we just recently had the 14th or 15th, whenever it was, No King's Day, with I've heard it was 11 million people turned out. How do you connect that with what you're talking about? Is there a connection with that because people were peaceful and expressing how they felt? Where does that fit with
The
this?
peaceful is absolutely that like steadiness, that steady, clean, neutral energy, saying like, I don't want this. Or like saying what you do want. I think what's interesting is that the response has been, oh, we're going to do more. So even in the moment where it was like peaceful, but they don't want that. They don't want peace. They want continuing fight. So, and so like, fortunately, unfortunately, I'm not suggesting, and again, do what's best for you. If you want to get out there and do the protest, like you should do that, like whatever you feel called to do. And with this particular time and place and people, they're going to keep deconstructing because that's what's up on deck. They're gonna, like, they don't really care. Like truth, order, and law, they don't care. So we can say all the things that we don't want. They're gonna be like, cool. So let's start saying what we do want. So like I have this, so for me personally, this is like my vibe that has shifted. I used to have these, like all the sayings like smash the patriarchy and all this about the patriarchy. Now I have all these shirts that I created it's champion the matriarchy. So I actually want that's what I do want, because it's no longer about tearing anything or anyone down. So it's that small shift. Well, I don't want kings. Well, what do you want? That's what I would encourage more of, is start touting really loudly what you do want. And then beautifully, like we talked about earlier, you begin creating in your lived existence what you do want. That's how. So that would be my advice going forward for anyone that's out there in the streets. Like, throw out some signs of what you do want. So no kings. So do you want, are you saying you want democracy? Do you want, like for me personally, I would hold a sign that says, write every human into the Constitution. Not just white men. Like that's what I want. I'm like, so like I might have a sign that says rewrite the Constitution. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's like Mother Teresa used to say, I don't go on anti-war marches, I go on pro-peace.
That's exactly
marches.
right. That's the difference. That's the shift. I'm not saying that any of the protests right now are wrong, bad, anything like that. It's that we need more of what we do actually want and what are we asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So this might sound like a kind of off the wall question, but as I'm listening to you, a lot of the things that I talk about in my course is the importance of feeling our emotions, whatever they are. How does that fit with all of this? Or where does it fit, I should say?
I laugh because I just actually made this into a t-shirt because all my clients love this and they like use it as their battle cry. They're like, feel your feels. And so that's what we always like. I have a group coaching container, and like that's what our little battle cry is. Okay. So it's likely that based on your upbringing or your lived experience, you weren't really encouraged to feel your feels to the fullest extent. So what I always encourage is when something comes up in you, and please start feeling your body. Like all of us, okay, when we're about to cry, we feel that like lump in our throat. When we might feel anxious or nervous or those butterflies, we feel it in our stomach. That is the most beautiful invitation to get curious. So the first is like a feeling in your body. What do you feel? I feel butterflies. I feel a lump in my throat. I feel tightness in my chest. Okay. Can you attach that to a feeling or an emotion? Yeah, I feel scared. I feel mad. Great. Why do you feel mad? what person, place, or thing is in front of you in your mind's eye that's bringing in that emotion. Then you're starting to name things. I feel it here. This is what I feel, and this is why. Whew. Just doing that small exercise that we're not used to doing brings forth an energetic shift within you first, to be able to see it, name it, feel it, and then assess it, like sit with it and be like, okay, I'm feeling anger about this person that's taking away my rights. Okay. What do you want? How will you feel when you have full rights? You start that exercise of what you do want and how you will feel. Suddenly, you have a runway or a next step because you felt the fullest expression of your feelings or emotions that was coming up around that external action. And drawing your sword won't take away that action, but feeling your feel to the fullest expression and then identifying what you do want is actually how you move through it and shift the collective by even a degree toward what we're actually creating.
What about when people can't name or even recognize what they're feeling? They've been so suppressed forever.
What if they don't?
Yeah, what if they just can't? I find that a lot of times with my students, they're so disconnected from everything that they don't even realize that they're angry, or they so quickly cover it all up by, Pollyanna.
I'd be assuming that they are wanting to, because I think there has to be a will to want to be like, I can't feel it. Okay, tell me more about that. Like, unpack it. Why don't you feel? Where'd that come from? So it takes it takes a bigger preamble or work leading into that how to feel. It's not going to be as easy as be like, okay, tell me. No, there's going to be some pre-work there, but I find, again, I was confused by the question because I'm like, well, you gotta want to find it, which is, I feel, a big difference. Because forcing anything is more of the same.
Yeah. I think people are so afraid of emotions. It's like, God, it's just an emotion.
And that's where I poke the bear on that. If someone's trying to get to a feeling, it's a fun exercise.
I can only imagine what you do. Wow. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Why don't you tell us all the things that you offer and who you would like to reach out to you and do your promo thing.
So you can find me at unlockthemagic.org. And I'm getting ready to do a revamp of my website. But a few key offers that are coming up that I want to make sure to promote is, one, my group coaching container, which is called The Collective Magic. And we all get together, we share what's on our heart, and we move through what is real in that moment. And what I do is I pull a common thread through the group container. And what ends up happening is this beautiful revelation through each other's shared experience, but also leaning into each other's experience as we share through the group. And it's over a 3-month period. And then I'm also launching Magic School, which is an intro for those people who are like, how do I feel? This might be good for you. So Magic School is starting to not only pay attention to what you already know inside, but you start to learn how to feel it, how to trust it, and how to validate it for yourself using very physical, tangible tools, like whether it be cards or elemental magic, like we're going to play. So it's really returning into what you already know and feel, and further to be able to navigate it and use it in your daily world. So beyond those two that are coming up, I offer, of course, one-to-one coaching and energy healing ceremonies such as moon, chakra balancing, and sacred womb healing, which is super powerful for the sacred rage. And so come and find me. I'd love to have a chat.
Wow. So one final statement. What would you like to leave people with today?
it's already in you. It being where you're trying to go next, and your brain likely won't want you to go there because it's unfamiliar. So find someone you trust to walk alongside you.
Love it. That's great. And I just want to share a quote that you sent me. The world deserves your unique brilliance, your magic. Show us. I just love
Thanks.
that. Thank you so much, Amy. And reach out to her and reach out to me, and let's change the world. Because the world deserves to shift into a magical, beautiful, higher consciousness place, which is where we're going. Thank you again. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday.